Kevin. Really excited to be here for GTC. I think the theme that everyone is taking away from Jensen's talk this morning is the importance of open source models and the importance of open source models and open source foundations for AI. Why is that important? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about what open source means in the vector search sense. Today, I'm going to be talking about edge-to-cloud video anomaly detection. So the idea is, what if you could actually do anomaly detection on the camera and then only escalate clips that you flagged as potential anomalies up to your cloud? And in this way, you only have to send maybe 10% of your total bandwidth to the cloud, save money, save time, save lives. So the problem that we are trying to solve here is that typical surveillance systems work based on classification. The problem with a classification surveillance method is, let's say you create a classification system to detect forklift incidents at your factory. Well, what happens when people start fighting? What happens when there's a flood, a fire? Now all of a sudden you have to keep training these models for all these different anomaly types. The benefit of using something like Qdrant for vector search is we can just say, how different is this clip from whatever was playing before? So for each camera, we can set up a baseline of what normal behavior is, and then based on that normal behavior, we have a built-in anomaly detection system that we don't have to tune or train in any kind of special way. So the project that I built was called Sentinel, and Sentinel is a video surveillance dashboard that's powered by Qdrant Edge, 12 Labs, Vultr, and NVIDIA Metropolis VSS. So the way it works is you have Qdrant Edge running directly on the camera. We give the camera a really loose threshold. And then because the loose threshold on the camera catches pretty much every anomaly, we then send that over to an LLM to do further analysis. On those clips that we tagged as potentially an anomaly, the LLM does a deep analysis to see which of these clips actually were anomaly versus which weren't, and we update the threshold over time based on the specific camera site. So there's a lot of different techniques that we're using to make sure that we capture the entire anomaly and also to make sure that we're capturing what's actually an anomaly. And we got really good results with this technique, right? In an experiment that we did on the UCF crime data set, which is video of crimes being committed at the University of Central Florida, we only had to send about 10% of the total bandwidth, but we had a 94% recall rate, only 2 false positives per hour. So today I'm going to talk to you first about why video is hard, take a product walkthrough through Qdrant, talk about some core insights, talk about search, talk about system design, and then talk about data. So the big shift right now in video is, it used to be you sent your video to a machine learning model, you train that model on some kind of behavior, and then you look to see, is that behavior showing up in the video? The new paradigm that we're looking at now is using vector similarity to embed the clip, and that way you can look at clips from the same camera and say, hey, how similar or dissimilar was this event? How similar or dissimilar is this batch of coffee? How similar or dissimilar is this batch of cars? How similar or dissimilar is this person who's knocking on my door at 6 a.m.? These are all kind of the different sports, for example, right? How similar or dissimilar does this person run to someone who has gotten hurt in the past? So now all of a sudden, instead of having to train a custom model, you can very easily and quickly start to pick up those anomalies simply by vectorizing your content. So the big push we want to encourage people to think about is, whatever systems you have right now that you've trained models to say, this is this or that is that, ask yourself, could you transfer that to a vector search problem where you have an embedding that's a baseline? So think about something like fraud, right? Maybe you have a machine learning model that's built to detect fraud. We could probably just vectorize the data, and people who are committing fraud are going to have a different enough embedding that you're going to be able to recognize it that way. So I'm going to get a little nerdy here for a second for my tech people, talk about the architecture in a bit of detail. So On the left here, we have our Edge device, which is going to be an NVIDIA Jetson on your camera. So this is actually going to be on the camera. Imagine a camera like this that was also attached to an NVIDIA device. We're going to do edge inference on that device, so that's where Qdrant Edge comes in. So we don't have to send the video anywhere to get those embeddings. We're going to do it directly on the device. What's the benefit of that? First of all, super fast. Second of all, privacy and data sovereignty issues don't have to come up because it's staying all on device. And third, you can have multiple cameras all on the same network now, right? Because even though each camera is isolated, you can send the anomalies for that camera with the information, letting you know which camera recorded it, and now all of a sudden you can build a database of, for example, queries such as, what bizarre things are happening across my warehouse this morning? So it starts with the NVIDIA Jetson, then we go to Qdrant Edge. Qdrant Edge is that embedded version of Qdrant that lets you run it on device, on your phone, IoT devices, self-driving cars, robots, etc. Then, if the clip, and only if the clip is escalated, so that means it's a clip that we determine could be an anomaly, we're then going to send it to 12 Labs for advanced video analysis. So we have the normal analysis through NVIDIA VSS Metropolis, but just to make sure and to really dial down, is this an anomaly? Is this a surveillance issue? Is there a fire, etc.? We're then going to send it to 12 Labs on the cloud, powered by the Vultr GPUs. So we get that response back really quickly. We don't need to wait to find out, hey, do I need to send out emergency services? Do we need backup? Or is this just a false alarm? You get that really quick confirmation from the full system, even though you only needed to be on edge to get the initial report. So you put these things together, and basically you have a dumb, fast model that runs on the camera. That model is really, really, really picky. Is really, really loose. It's going to accept pretty much anything that looks like an anomaly. It's going to say, hey, that's an anomaly. Hey, that's an anomaly. That's an anomaly. And then it's going to send it to its big brother, which is powered by Vultr and 12 Labs, to get that real analysis. The big brother is going to say, no, that's not an anomaly. This is an anomaly, etc. So in terms of what raw results we got back, we tested this on the UCF crime data set, like I mentioned, which is a data set with 13 different types of crimes that have been recorded across University of Central Florida. And we got almost 0.97 AOC ROC on 1,900 videos. And once again, the big thing that you want to take away here is this 10% here, right? You only had to send 10% of your clips to the cloud. So if you have, let's say, 500 cameras across a warehouse, now you're basically acting like you have 50. So all that bandwidth you get to save because it's just running on device. Edge to cloud infrastructure, this is the fun part, right? How do we get from Qdrant to Vultr? Well, we create that baseline in the cloud. So we have a baseline of what normal is in the cloud, and then we can just compare that to what we have on the device. In terms of how this works on the Qdrant side, we're really just doing semantic search. So what we're doing here is the same thing that ChatGPT does when you ask it, what did we talk about last Tuesday? Or maybe if you asked it, what's the weirdest thing we talked about? It would be able to answer you because it's created a baseline of what you talk about. But we're just converting it to video, right? So instead of thinking of text or images, just think video. We can create a baseline video, and then we can detect anomalies by comparing, hey, is this video similar to the baseline, or is it not? So down here we have this example where if I were to query something like red shoes, we're going to go into vector space, find my nearest neighbor, use distance metric, and then get my top results. And the way that this works is, if you think about this 2D vector, that might be able to capture something like weight and age. So now I can get weight and age for every human on Earth, and I could plot a line like this. When I bring in the third dimension, now I can bring in more information. So I could do weight, age, and maybe blood pressure. So I get more and more information, right? The way that vectors work is you actually get thousands of dimensions. So you can imagine how specific you could be about different people if you had thousands of different vectors to separate them by. And the way that this is powered is embedding models. So here we use the 12 Labs embedding model, which is what powers our app. And we're also going to be able to use filtering here, right? So I can query, for example, show me all the incidents that happened between noon and 2 p.m. That happened on the quad. That happened in the library, etc. This is how a quadrant collection actually works. You've got your points, you've got your vectors, and then you've got metadata. So that's going to allow you to keep all that information in one place, make queries based on the day, the person who uploaded it, etc. When we talk about quadrant search capabilities, really the focus here is going to be on hybrid search. That's the big thing that's right now, being able to combine different kinds of search into one, get the best results, making sure that it's distributed and resilient, making sure that you have access to that re-ranking and quantization. So, how does this actually work? Let me see if I can pull this up for everyone here. Sorry.
Which minimises risks by avoiding mistakes. And then what goes out the other end is either fully wrapped equipment, securely crated up, ready to go into a greenfield site, or often we're using these flight bases for deployment, which is when you might go into a facility.
Okay, so once again, just to give you guys a brief recap of where we came from. The way that people used to do anomaly detection on video is you train a machine learning model to detect that behavior. The way that people are doing it now is just create a baseline of normal for each camera, and then based on how different the new clip is from what we've established as a normal baseline, flag it as an anomaly or not. If we flag it as an anomaly, then just send it over to the cloud for that detailed analysis. So how does this look under the hood? Well, let's take a look. This is what it might look like for the person who's actually behind the scenes using the tool. You've got your live camera feeds, right? So there's going to be these 12 live camera feeds that are going to monitor your campus, your library, your factory, your city in real time. Then clips are going to be labeled not only in terms of what happened in that clip, but also in terms of the severity of the score, right? So if I click on this clip that says 2 individuals fighting, I'm actually going to get a summary of what happened. I'm going to get the location it happened at. I'm going to get the zone it happened at, the duration. Any other data I wanted, I could also get that in here, right? So we see here there's 2 people who are fighting. This was flagged, and you can see that the anomaly was picked up, right? Then we also, I should clarify real quickly, you can also click and monitor straight from here as well, just like a real security patrol. Then we also have people who prefer browsing in text, right? So here we have the text search where I can filter by zone, camera, time, incident type, etc. And then I can click on an incident and actually get the details. So once again, I'll click on this incident. I can see similar clips. I can chat with the clip. I can review the clip. And then I can dismiss, escalate, or investigate the clip further. Then we also have the search page, which is going to allow me to actually run semantic search on the clips that we have, right? So I could say something like bike on walkway. And it's going to search through the clips, try to find a clip of a bike on the walkway, right? Just like the same way, we have chat. So I can ask questions and say, describe the most severe incidents. It's going to do its thing, find me the clips, give me the information that I need. And then the last tab is probably my favorite tab. This is the intelligence tab. So what you have here is all of your clips in latent space, right? So on the left, we have the actual clip, and on the right, we have the latent space. And I can turn the anomalies on or off, and you can see here, I can click on another clip, we'll go to that clip, right? So the idea is you can actually explore your clips in latent space, and in that way you can kind of explore, hey, what's going on this campus, right? Because we can cluster similar activity together and different activity far away. So this is Sentinel. It's the power of being able to combine something like Qdrant Edge with Vultr Cloud GPUs on device, on premise. You can build a security surveillance system that is going to be a lot cheaper without losing any accuracy. So my name's Terry Damiba. I'm a senior developer experience engineer at Qdrant. If you're interested in building surveillance, video anomaly, video intelligence, I'll be here. Would love to chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. Let me see if I have any more slides before I surrender the stage. Okay, so I showed you the demo, and yeah, thank you. Please go to qdrant.tech/subscribe. If you want to, you can also follow me on X. I'm pretty active. If you're ever looking for vector search, AI, just fun stuff, follow me here on X at PT Damiba. Learn something new.